When you're on the journey we're on, we know that there's going to be steps forward, and unfortunately some of those steps will be very, very, very small. And at the moment I can't find too many positives out of today. We just had no answers for their game style in the end, and they performed pretty well across the full four quarters. I think their work rate taught us a bit of a lesson today. I feel like we let our people down today because we just couldn't get anything going, and a bit of credit goes to Gold Coast. They did a great job, but I think our players and staff will be disappointed with the performance today.
Welcome back to Footy Classified. Pretty raw, very honest. Sam, 24 hours on, I'm assuming that they're always difficult times, post-match press conferences when the adrenaline's running high. How do you look back on it and those comments?
It's uncomfortable to rewatch, but I don't think too much has changed. I was really disappointed with the way we played and our lack of ability to get anything going in the game. We kicked the first 3 goals and then just hardly fired a shot after that, and we just couldn't answer anything that they threw up at us.
So take us through your move down to the bench. You were trying to get something out of the players. I noticed this vision. What are you saying here?
Well, I just need some energy into the game. So there was a certain play that happened in the back pocket, and there was just a visible lack of energy in the group. And from the back of what we had tried to produce coming out of half time, it was clear that it wasn't going to be a tactical quarter. It was going to be something that was about energy and enthusiasm and environment. And sometimes going to the bench as a coach, you can help create that. It didn't work too well, and we struggled for the rest of the game also. But there was not a lot of tactics in that game after half time. It was more just about energy.
Sam, I heard Justin Longmuir last week talk about, I've got to look at the week that we had and maybe I didn't prepare my players. But do you go back and say, look as far back as the week to look at what maybe potentially you could have carried into the game? Yeah,
I felt like we prepared really well. Looked at last year's bye. We looked at how we went about things this year. We felt really confident. I don't feel like we have any excuses coming out of that game for the performance that we put up. We kicked the first 3 goals, so it wasn't about the start, and we just weren't able to sustain it for long enough. So I think every team has lost off the bye unless they've played another team with the bye. So there's got to be something in it. But at the moment, I don't have an answer for it.
Surely we can't talk about fixture integrity with a straight face and then keep these ridiculous buys in. I mean, to your point, 0-8 now for teams coming off a bye, playing a team who didn't have the bye. So there must be science in it, Sam. What can we do? Because you all want the best fixture that you can have.
I don't know. It's not my job to do the fixture. What I know is that.
But if it was,
I think everyone needs a week off in the season. I think 23 weeks we'd all acknowledge is too long to go week after week after week. So my personal preference with a younger group and with where we're at, and to keep the best players on the park more often, is to have 2 buys a bit more spread out. I think there was one year where it was round 8 and 18 or thereabouts, and then not have the finals bye. And to me, as a player, that was the best year, because you knew you have to get through 8 or 9 games and you could give it everything knowing you had a week coming off. So you would see less players managed and that type of thing.
But do you want to play a team, should we all just have 1 week so that you're playing a team who's had the exact same break as you?
Well, I don't know if it's been a theme like it has this year every year, so difficult for the AFL to predict that. And I also know that it's a huge industry, and there'd be a lot of people, media people in particular, who would love 1 week off so that they could get a week off as well, Sam. So I understand why you're after 1 week off.
It's unfair, given that myself and you are filling in for 2 people who are in Europe at the moment on their own break.
I want to ask you, Sam, about James Sicily and that suspension. So I know, being there at the time, there's no way I would have thought that he was going to get 3 weeks. So how can you how did you assess it? Like when it first happened, and by the end of it getting 3 weeks, and I just get your thoughts as a coach, and can you understand how it's got to this point?
At the time, it was 12 minutes to go. We're playing a fantastic team. We're 7 points up, and your captain pulled out a tackle like that. I couldn't have felt more proud of him in that moment. And obviously, it was unfortunate what happened with McCluggage, that he was concussed. But I think it's given a lot of clarity to the rules, and the rules are if you hurt someone, you're unlikely to be available for a period of time after it, regardless of how that sort of act plays out. So, I think it's not how I would make the rules, but I think we do need to protect the head, and they're going about it in the best way that they can at the moment.
The AFL recently went to clarify that. Some coaches opted not to show their players the memo. Were you one that did show your players?
Yeah, it was interesting. The vision that they sent was basically these are some tackles that have not been suspended. And so whether or not there's a lot of value, some of our players have seen that. But
Did you think it was pointless?
well, I thought that the vision, here are some ways to not hurt people in a tackle, was basically what they said. And one of them was actually to roll them onto yourself, which James did, the week later. So it is, I think there's a lot of uncontrollables in the game, and it's a really difficult, the AFL's in a difficult position too, because they need to protect their head and they need to be looking to do everything in their power to protect from concussion, and they're doing that.
Some of that positioning is within their own control, though. I mean, in fairness to them, Brad Scott did leave the head of footy post a long time ago. And everyone that you speak to, Sam, at Clubland, you would be able to talk to this better, says that Laura Kane is doing an unbelievable job filling in and probably doing more than her share of work. What's your experience been there, and how much more support does she need? Short-term, medium-term, long-term?
Yeah, well, I haven't had too many dealings with Laura Kane, but I've always found her to be very, very impressive. And fortunately, Rob McCartney is the one who has to go to the AFL. I just bring him my complaints and things that I'm not happy with, and he takes them up the ladder. But I think it is a position that they need to get filled sooner rather than later.
What are the sort of things that you can tell our viewers that a coach would go to a head of footy with from the weekend? Like minuscule, or are they broader issues?
Oh, I think everything. I think a lot of it would be around, the soft cap for next year. Some of it would be around, umpires and in clarifications and rules that have perhaps fallen by the wayside.
Yep.
All those types of things, you need to take them somewhere. And at the moment, it's a little bit more difficult. But Laura's doing a good job. But I'm sure with the changes at AFL House that's happening with Gill, etc., and Dill taking over, I'm sure they're going to get sorted out. But I would hope it's soon.
Do the players get too much time off at the end of the season, during the season with their 4-day breaks, and during the week? I was struck by Ross Lyon's comments that he has them for about 15 hours a week. How do you find balancing that?
Yeah, it is. It's a challenge. I think, particularly at the end of the season. I think the AFL Players Association, even when I was a player and you were too, Kane, basically they always fought for two things: more money and more time off. And there was pre-seasons where we started on the 10th or 12th of October, and I think that's going too far. But our players, they knocked off in August and then didn't come back until, some of them, sort of early December. And for players who have been around for a long time and have their life in order, I think that's fine. It is a difficult job, but I think for the most part, players need to now do their own pre-season. I think their own off-season program. They can't be run by the clubs, and they need to run their own.